Welcome to the Menopause Stories podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tamara Beckford, founder and medical director of Truly Balanced Wellness Care. This is the space where we stop the guesswork and start the optimization. We're pulling back the curtain on that midlife hijack and giving high-achieving women the clinical roadmaps and unfiltered stories they need to reclaim their edge. Let's get into today's story. Hello again, everyone. Thank you guys for stopping by today. We have on our Menopause Stories podcast, Dr. Munga Stevenson. We've met virtually a couple of times. So this is actually our third conversation. And I'm really honored that she's willing to share what she's been going through with us. Because, ladies, we know that we go through these things, and unfortunately, a lot of us are silently suffering. And the point of having a Menopause Stories podcast is that you realize and recognize that some of these symptoms, some of these crazy changes that's going on in you, it's not just you. We're going through this together. Dr. Munga Stevenson, let's have you introduce yourself. Tell us all about you, about the role in leadership that you currently have or the roles that you've had or obtained in the past. Give us that little bit about yourself. And then when did you start noticing that something was changing? Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much, Tamara. Like you said, it feels like I've known you for a long time.
I know. We were like, has it been like 2 years?
Yes, my name is Nondu Miso. Was born in South Africa. I'm a medical doctor. I studied in South Africa, but currently living in the US now in North Carolina. And my day-to-day is leading myself in my own company. I'm the founder and CEO of my own coaching practice called Ubuntu Doctor Coaching. And my focus is on executive and leadership development for physician leaders. I work with other leaders primarily who are also physicians. Yeah, I think that's what I can share about you. But in terms of when I started noticing, part of my experience, I think my journey with menopause is that I never really worried about it. And a lot of that was not because I didn't know about menopause. Obviously, I'm trained as a doctor. I know a lot about menopause. I know exactly what's going on anatomically, physiologically. But I also come, I think, from a culture where menopause was not necessarily talked about openly. I recall going to church and you'd see all the older women fanning themselves. And it's only now that I realize, okay, I understand now that they were probably having their hot flushes or their personal summers. So for me, I didn't feel that it was something to be concerned about because even just with my own mother and observing how she navigated it coincided with another season of a woman's life, which was very positive. And so in my mind, this is what I was looking forward to, actually, not so much the menopause. So that was really, I think, my experience. And that I think has been helpful in balancing some of the challenges, the physical challenges of menopause. Yeah. So maybe I'll stop there for now.
I love it. Now I'm listening, and you are one of my second guests who looked at it through the lens of their younger self, watching their parent, their mom, and their mom having this experience, but they as a child, it's oh my gosh, wow, this is a phase where there's so much honor and positive embrace in some respects of it, as opposed to like now a lot of women had the experience where it's just like, oh Lord, you're so negative. So I'm smiling because hearing such a nice delivery of this experience, especially from a child's view of seeing, oh, my mom, once she got to that phase, there was a reverence about it. There's this positive attributes connected to it. I want to hear more because a lot of times we're hearing such more of the negative attributes, like, yes, the symptoms and so on, but how is it through the community? How was it through the eyes of the younger version of you looking at your mom, seeing this like
Mhm.
positive connection to this point in life.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is generally cultural as well.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
come from a traditional background. I'm a Zulu woman from South Africa, grew up around other Zulu women. And you'll know that in many indigenous societies, at a certain age, women start to become leaders in their own right,
Mhm.
and so you start associating, I think, aging with a through a different lens. You see it through a different lens, where it is not pathological, but at the same time, being a doctor, I also understand, that these are real experiences that women have. But when
Absolutely.
society holds the woman in a non-judgmental way, in other words, that allows us to look at this as a phase, it's a season, it's like adolescence, right? It's a season, and it doesn't last forever. Our bodies do change. There are interventions to make it easier. I think it cushions it when you think about what is also on the other side. And for me, that is how I was looking at it. A couple of years back, maybe not, maybe 3, 4 years ago, I was admitted into the mothers union of my church. And this is typically an organization with older women. And it
Mhm.
was very emotional for me. And this was a period that also coincided with menopause, to see myself being amongst the elders
Yeah.
of my church. And it brings on a sense of, how do I give back? I'm in a season now of giving back to younger women, of taking on mentors with my pro bono time. That's for me the association with menopause. Having said that, it doesn't mean it's been easy.
Easy.
Yeah, I mean, I've had definitely a lot of physiological struggles.
Mhm.
And I think the challenge is that it's not sort of a once off, right? You don't know what you're going to get until it's there. So one of the major challenges for me was weight gain, right? I
Mm.
just got to a point where I was gaining weight, and not in the way that I would have gained weight when I was younger, just in places that I hadn't anticipated, like my breasts. And now all of a sudden I have to buy new clothes, and clothes that were previously flattering were now not so flattering, holding me in places that they shouldn't be holding me. A lot of it was, just the discomfort of the clothes. Fortunately, I didn't have the hot flushes, but then all of a sudden there was a period where, the armpit smell. You smelling yourself. Is that me? The body odor.
Yes.
Kind of changes. The hair starts thinning, and I've always been somebody who's really had healthy hair thinning, patchy hair loss. Just little things like that just come once off. Some of them, like shoulder freeze. I had a frozen shoulder at one point, and I was trying, what happened? And then thinking back about it, it's, oh, this is part of the season. But
Yes.
yeah, I think it's just not really being able to predict exactly what's going to happen. And yeah, but at the same time, like I said, because I see it as this season of more than just the physical change, that kind of helps me laugh about some of the things. Sometimes, I get together with my friends and we laugh about it. Like, what do you have this month?
It's like a bingo card.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you're able to sit with your friends and communicate about this and in such a way that it shows a camaraderie because there's so many people who are suffering through this silently and really unaware that this might be a constellation of symptoms like the hair loss, the frozen shoulder, the weight gain, like you said, in places where it just doesn't make sense. I thought
Mhm.
I already went through puberty. Why am I developing this or that? And then realizing that this is all related to boom, oh my gosh, this is part of this menopausal transition. But it was also interesting to see the embracing of this portion of life where you recognize, wow, so now I'm amongst the elders. And I know in some where we're, and the beauty about this podcast is that I'm interviewing people from all different cultures and from all over the world, which is a great honor. So that women, you can see how it's embraced outside of just your culture or just what you're seeing in the norm or what you're being fed in your version of your social media, what's being fed to you. A lot of our Western style is not really embracing this. And hearing the word elders is just, oh, you're mean I'm put out to pasture. Why? When we think about it, it's like an embrace of knowledge. So the fact that I think the best way to think about it in the Western world, especially if you're here in the US, is you moving from the kiddies table to the big people table, Thanksgiving. You're like, I'm no longer at the kiddies table, which is like embracing that you now have something to contribute. You know, you're amongst those who can contribute and pass on. And that's a huge honor. So congratulations brought into that, especially within your church community, because like you said, when you look back at it, you're like, oh wow, now I'm at the phase that I can contribute. Now there are times where we're going through this and there's a particular situation that happens and we're like either like, oh my gosh, I'm mortified, or wow, I handled that very well considering what could have been. Did any of that ever happen to you during this phase?
It did. As I was sharing with you earlier, I
Mhm.
actually recently did a TED talk on menopause in Cape Town.
Yes,
In Cape
absolutely.
Town, and the brain fog in the middle of my TED talk.
No, are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
and you prepare for these talks, and I opted not to use notes or slides. I decided that I was going to memorize my talk, and I was very prepared. And as I was talking, and it was not nerves, I was not nervous at all, but as I was talking, I had brain fog. And I recognized it because I've had these periods. In fact, I've had to change a lot of the way that I work because of brain fog. I try to ensure that I sleep better, of course, but also sort of like the focus time is less. I'm no longer at the age I think where I could work nonstop on the computer for 6 hours. So, but I had brain fog in the middle of my TED talk about menopause.
Oh my. Oh
But,
my.
it was humorous to me, and I think it was humorous to the audience as well. I quickly recovered. But yeah, there was an example of sometimes of how it just kind of hits you. You don't necessarily prepare. Talking to some of my friends, they've had even more embarrassing situations where they have, one of my colleagues talked about her glasses was steaming up in the middle of a meeting. So all different things. But for me personally, I think that was the most recent public impact that I've had of menopause.
Wow. Let's talk about during a period of high stakes. Because
Exactly.
a TED Talk, even a TED Talk, a TEDx Talk, it's something that it's a culmination of months, almost like a year of preparation. And to deliver it. This episode is brought to you by Truly Balanced Wellness Care. Most high level women are told that their lives are normal while they're struggling to lead through brain fog and fatigue. At Truly Balanced, we don't settle for not sick. We architect for peak performance. Whether you need a 30-minute hormone strategy session to audit your labs or are ready for our 3-month Jumpstart Intensive, we provide the physician-led roadmap to get you back to your best. Visit the link in the show notes or go to www.trulybalancedwc.com to secure your spot. Now, back to the conversation. On menopause, a topic that's so important, where the symptoms can be brain fog, and to literally have brain fog during the delivery, that is irony personified. But
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's the right audience because they understood what is going on, and it's also another way for us to broadcast, like, "Hey,
Mhm.
this is what's going on." Because when the brain fog, it can come in a way that if you aren't aware that that's what's going on, a lot of women are probably thinking, "Am I getting early onset dementia?" You
Mhm.
know, why am I not being able to find these words? Why am I having these word finding difficulties? And it's probably worse for those who have a little bit of knowledge like us of neuro. You start trying to self-diagnose. But when you realize it's just like we said, the constellation of symptoms that goes along with this journey, it's very interesting to say the least. And brain fog absolutely is one of them. Wow, what a time. So now going through this process, was there a turning point where from the beginning of your journey into menopause, perimenopause, to where you are now, where you can recover in such a high stake environment, such as a TED Talk? Was there a turning point that where you could say, "Oh wow, this is a point where I realized, okay, you know what, I can manage this, albeit whatever is going on."
Yeah, I think once I want to say embrace it,
Mhm.
right? And for the most part, because I already am well informed as a doctor about what was happening, I embraced it, and it's almost become like a game to me. It's like, I wonder what symptom is going to be next. You know,
It's a
it's almost
bingo card, as I
yeah.
mentioned earlier.
I'm just checking off on my list what else could possibly be next. But for me, that was really the most important part. And I don't want to say there was a specific moment when that
Mhm,
happened. I think it was just when you, as you said, you recognize that, oh, this is now brain fog. Oh, this is, the hair loss associated with it. And you make the diagnosis. That for me at that point is where I started making peace with it.
mhm,
And just accepting it again that this is a natural part of life. I'm not defined by my reproductive capacity. There's just so much more to me than that. And as I said, just started looking at the positive things. In my culture, when I'm in South Africa, being called mama by older, by younger people, is a sign of respect. So the more that happens to you, the more the season sits better with
mhm.
you. The more people come to you and ask you, colleagues in the field, I'm looking for a mentor. Are you available to mentor me? The more it settles with me. And so I just take it as par for the course now, not really as something that is intended to minimize or diminish my value as a woman, but really just to acknowledge how long I've been on this earth and what my contributions have been. And as I said, coming from that type of society that does that, it has made it so much easier to embrace it. And that's why I can just really take off the symptoms now, like, oh, it's one of those things that is happening to me. So
Mhm,
I'm learning to live with it. I don't know how long it will be. It's been a couple of years now, but
mhm.
I'm pretty sure in time or over, in time, I will be okay. I'll look back at it and say, this is the beginning of a new chapter of my life, and just have that excitement about it. Yeah.
I love it. Now, this version of you, if they can go back and talk to, say, the version of you maybe 15 or so, maybe even 20 years ago, what would you tell that person?
I would tell that person to take the advice that we give to patients about a healthy lifestyle, right?
Mhm,
I think this is maybe one of the areas that I wish I had definitely done differently.
mhm,
And we know, of course, that it is very helpful when you exercise regularly, you eat well. I think the information is there. I'm one person that has not really been too. consistent with exercise, not very mindful about what I eat. But because now my body is changing, it's just that much more difficult, after 50 odd years to try and start exercising and being, more mindful about what you eat. So I would definitely say, even to young women out there, not to say you cannot have fun, but
Sure.
that, for sure we know that even when you have a healthy lifestyle, some of the symptoms may even be improved. So I would say to my younger self, definitely try and get a consistent exercise program, eat well. Yeah, because it gets much more difficult as you get older to try and develop that type of routine.
Love it, love it. So, hey, I think that that younger version of you definitely will listen. And for those who are in that state, hey, you're hearing it. Now, as you know, that I am a physician who takes care of these women who are in perimenopause, menopause. And one of my goal is to provide them with optimal, like extreme, the best of the best care. So if you were a patient of mine, what would you want me to know or to do or to ask in order to make sure that you are getting like top notch care?
I would ask you, Dr. Tamara, to also ask me,
Mhm.
how is my family supporting me? How am I coping at work? How
Mm.
is my community supporting me? As so that it doesn't become my responsibility alone, but I have the full support of the people and the community around me. That is what I would ask you to ask me.
I love it. I love it. And it really does go with what we call like a nice holistic approach to the patient care, right? One I feel a very challenge that we're having nowadays. Of course, one of the challenge, of course, is time, but it doesn't afford us the opportunity to dive in. And that's one of the reasons why I have truly balanced wellness because I want to dive in. I want to know the support. I want to know, how is this affecting you? I want to know it all. Why? Because when we are able to take care of you as an individual, as a part of your complete ecosystem, then you get the best care ever, the
Mhm.
best, and you feel optimized, right? So I love that. Thank you so much. And I will make sure that I continue and I dive even deeper into all the external support that these women are getting or not getting.
Mhm.
Because there's so many women who, the answer might be like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting support." And then there are a lot of women who the answer might be like, "I'm the one that has to be the support for everyone else." And so they're not receiving, but they're constantly giving. So absolutely, I love, love, love that. So thank you in advance. Now,
You-
before we end this wonderful conversation, I always ask my guests what song, this is my fun question for everyone. There's a song or the lyrics to a song that really epitomizes either what you're going through now or what you are going through in any period of this time. What would you say that is for you?
Yes, a very difficult question when you ask as South Africans. We love music. There's so many.
That's
I listen to music every single day, but I did think about it, and the one that I chose for you
mhm.
is by Leta Mbulu. It's from a song called um, "There's Music in the Air."
Ooh,
Yes, and if I can just read a little bit
absolutely.
of it. The last verse says, "If ever someday you'll come to know your song, I'll show you a way. Your heart can come along. I can feel it when I sing. Then I know love. There's a joy in everything when made for love." So I thought that is beautiful.
Yes.
Try to remember that there is joy in everything, and I think it's part of the mindfulness experience. And I don't know, perhaps as I get older as well, there's just more appreciation for the little things, in life. Yeah. So there's joy everywhere. Yeah.
There is.
Mm.
Love it. Thank you so much. Any last minute? Well, I think that that's a great this thing that there's joy in everywhere in all that you do. But if you have any last minute thing that you want to let us know about, are you going to be anywhere in particular or how people can connect with you?
Yes. So yes, I post a lot on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I do try to do that, but in relation to our conversation today, I think soon I'll share also on LinkedIn the talk that I did about menopause and
Mhm.
my experience of it, and how I see it as a doctor, but also as an African woman. But also just to thank you, Dr. Tamara, for this platform. It's so heartening for me to have us as women talk about what we're experiencing. I think for the longest time, menopause has been a little secret for something we don't often talk about. For many
Mhm.
women, it's a source of confusion,
Mhm.
shame. But even for us in the medical field, we haven't always had the language to support women beyond the medical aspects. And so
Absolutely.
this platform is really opening up space for us to talk about it. And so I wanted to just thank you so much for that as well.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for agreeing to tell us your story because I think that it's so important for us women, as we mentioned, to recognize that this phase, as you say, we're more than our reproductive years. There's so much more value that we have to give to our society once we move into this state of elders where we are more knowledgeable, we've had the experience, and we are now at the point where we want to give back. And it's more than just legacy. It's really a point where our hearts and our minds and our body are all connected on a beautiful level. And we want to be able to share that with other members of society, especially our other females. So I really want to thank you so much for being so open and telling your story. And I look forward to us connecting again. We haven't seen each other in person yet, but I know that one day we definitely will be able to do so.
Definitely, that's my wish too. Thank
Yes, absolutely.
you.
And for those of you listening, thank you so much for listening to the Menopause Stories podcast with Dr. Tamara Beckford. I will catch you guys next time. Bye bye. You've been listening to the Menopause Stories podcast. If today's conversation hit home, don't let your story stay stuck in that midlife hijack. Head over to the show notes to book your strategy session and to join the movement of women redefining their power. I'm Dr. Tamara Beckford. Stay optimized, stay bold, and I'll catch you on the next episode.